everyone. Welcome to the Service Design Network Instagram Live. I am Judy Bendiola and I will be one of your hosts for today's session. So today is slightly more than 1 week since the Service Design Global Conference starts, and this year it will be in Berlin. And come and join us on the 4th of October for some amazing workshops, and on October 5th and 6th for the Service Design Global Conference. It will be a hybrid event. So if you're not available to go to Berlin, you can join us online. Hello everyone. We have 8 viewers already. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and we are very happy to have Adam Lawrence to be one of our guests today. So before we start for this afternoon, she's one of our ambassadors and she just recently graduated in Politecnico di Milano in Italy. Hello, Silvia.
Hello everybody. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can definitely see and hear you. And I'm so eager, Silvia, to learn with you and to discover what the Service Design Global Conference has to offer for us. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm excited too also for the news coming along this live. I think you should keep engaged and see what's coming. Anyway, I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Silvia Rosetti, but you can call me Silvi. I'm from Milan, Italy, and I'm a junior service and strategic designer and very early in time grad from Polyme. And also I'm a service designer, service design network ambassador, and I'm very, very, very happy to be here with you.
Great. Hey, thank you so much, Silvia, for being one of our ambassadors. Maybe a lot of people have been asking, how's your experience as an ambassador? What exactly are you doing with us?
Oh, wow. So an experience as an ambassador is kind of of an holistic thing, so very much in team with service design, because I get to know very much different things. First of all, these first challenges with social media, and also helping with Myrable creation, and activities like that, meeting with super nice people from all over the world, professionals from different seniority and background. So it's very, very exciting. And I can say that it's a very inclusive environment where everybody have his voice heard and the initiative is taking in account. So I'm super happy that I took this path this summer.
Great. Thank you so much, Silvia, for contributing your time and expertise with us. I really appreciate it. And just to let you know, I'm Judy Bendiola, and I am leading the marketing and partnership teams for the Service Design Global Conference. And we would like to welcome our viewers, and we will be your host for today's IG live sessions. So, Silvia, who will be our guest this afternoon?
So this afternoon, our guest will be Adam Lawrence. He is the co-author of the super famous This is Service Design Doing and This is Service Design Methods. He is, among other things, the initiator of the Global Service Jam and the Global Gov Jam. And he's a comedian. Why I'm saying you that? Because it's related to the upcoming Service Design Network Global Conference, because he'll be running a workshop there, and this workshop will be bringing everybody up to date on the latest practice that you can put in place in your organization during design and change projects. And it's interesting because we will use and he will explain everybody independently from their background and their familiarity with the technique, the old millennial technique from theater. So that will be interesting and challenging at the same time.
So without further ado, let's welcome the man of the hour. I'm such a fan. Welcome, Adam.
Hi there. Thank you very much, Silvia. Hi, Julie. Hi there. Great to be here.
Hi, Adam.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you. Getting busy preparing for the conference. As you know, it's a really big date in the service design year. I think the design year generally more and more. And it's great to have it in Germany again, my home country. So I'm looking forward to being there in Berlin and meeting loads of people.
Nice. That sounds amazing.
Great. And I'm just wondering, where are you based right now? You've mentioned that Germany is your home country. So basically, where are you staying in Germany?
I live in Bavaria, in the northern part of Bavaria. We call it Franconia, but it's part of the state of Bavaria, between the towns of Nuremberg and Würzburg, more or less. So we're pretty close to the high-tech areas of Bavaria, where companies like Adidas and Puma and Siemens have their headquarters. And we're also within easy reach of places like Milan or Prague or places like this. It's a great place to live, and the weather's beautiful today.
Wow, great. The southern part of Germany.
That's right.
Yeah. I know that Germany has different cultures, and aside from beer, now it's Oktoberfest. What can the on-site attendees expect in Berlin?
I think it's going to be an amazing conference. There was an SDGC conference in Berlin 13 years ago, in 2010, which was my first conference. That's where I encountered the service design community for the first time. And of course, it's grown so much since then, but it's wonderful to return to those roots. And what I love about the SDGC conference is it's the place where really the whole family comes together. Yeah, it's nearly everybody who's in service design knows about this conference, and they try to get there. So you can meet people from all kinds of parts of the world, all kinds of backgrounds. There's been absolutely amazing presentations put together by the, or let's say sessions put together by the speaker team. It's all been run by the folks at SDN, of course, and a bunch of volunteers in Germany like myself, or Germans like Mark Stigdorn. It's going to be a really, really cool conference. I just think it's going to be one of the best ones for a long time.
Wow. This is
We couldn't have a
better
presentation. Yeah.
So I am very privileged to have your commitment and support for this global conference, because Silvia is our ambassador, so she will be somehow active in our virtual event. And Adam mentioned that I think you will somehow be on stage as well on the global conference, and you will also be conducting a workshop on October 4th, and it's about theater. Silvia, maybe you have some questions, because from my side, I don't know about service design, but I have some basic theater experience. So how can you somehow mingle these two worlds?
Sure. So are you asking me, or are you asking Silvia? Sorry, I misunderstood.
Sylvia,
yeah. So
do you have any additional?
Yeah, I have like some. I have some question on the workshop, direct question on the workshop, and I'm sure like this, the answer to this question that Judy just asked will come up like very, very soon. So just like for everybody to know, the workshop will be like on day 0 of the conference, and so the 4th of October. And despite being on the day 0 of the conference, you can also attend to that like separately from it. So nice opportunity. And the title that Adam chose is The Seeing Place, Enhancing Service Design with Theatrical Methods and Improvisation. So that's like very, very, very interesting and challenging. And I have some question I prepared for you.
Please.
So the first one will be, you mentioned also before that you've been to the conference that was also at the time in Berlin in 2010. And also in the description of the workshop, there is mention of this fact. So how have theatrical methods evolved in the context of service design since the introduction in the SDN conference in 2010? There has been some key advancement that you could see on this effectiveness, and yeah.
Absolutely. I think, let me say what I mean by theatrical methods, first of all. Don't be scared by the word. This is simply getting more down to earth, getting more practical. Rather than visualizing a thing, we do a thing. Why are we moving models of people around in a model room when we have people in a room? Let's move the real people around and see how things feel. And what's great about theater is it has literally thousands of years of practice at making people feel certain things, making them feel satisfied, for example, making them feel happy, making them value an experience. And that's what service design does as well. Theater combines backstage thinking with front stage thinking. We've even taken those terms into design because they work so well. And theater has worked with that for 3,500 years in China and about 2,500 years in the West. So it's an incredibly valuable resource to have this very practical way of working. And there have been people working theatrically in design for a long time. It kind of collided with the SDN around 2010 with the Service Design Network community, but I know there were other people already working in this field at the same time. I don't want to claim that I introduced this, so I have brought in some. And I think it's evolved with service design. So what we've understood as we've moved through the last decade or so as service designers is that service design is everybody's business. It might not be everybody's main task, but more and more people are involved in it, and organizations understand that more and more people are involved with it. They can be people with very different backgrounds and very different skills. And that's really important for theatrical methods, because theatrical methods don't need literacy. They don't need to have abstraction skills or presentation skills. We don't have an audience in our workshops. We're just using our bodies, using our mouths, our ears, our eyes, our hands and our feet to try stuff. We're thinking with our hands, as Ideo would say, or thinking with our bodies, as I would say. It sounds very hippy-dippy, and it's not. It's so practical. We just try stuff. When we're doing research, for example, rather than asking people to describe what they do, I ask them to show me what they do. That's already different. I copy what they do. I feel it. I might step into the customer's shoes in a much more literal way. I want to steal somebody's shoes, but I'm going to walk to the other side of the desk and actually try it. And I start to really feel stuff. And that's, I think, also important. As part of the democratization of service design, methods really support. We also have much more awareness that there's a lot going on. It's not just transactional. It's not just flow charts. It's about human experience, and human experience is complex. And honestly, there's only one method that I know, or one tool set that I know, which has that level of experience of dealing robustly and in a way that can be reproduced with human emotion. Human emotion. I feel when I do things. I don't feel when I draw them. And there's a difference there, which I think is really important. Of course, we still use sketching. We use all the traditional tools that come from graphic design and from product design as well. But theater is a whole extra tool set, and it's really, really easy. So I'd like people to learn more about it.
Yeah, I completely agree, like, with what you said. Also because, like, it's kind of known the fact that if you want to change something, for example, you have to go more for action than for thoughts or stuff like that. So make a lot of sense that doing things make you like empathize and like really enter into the character. And I feel like visualization, it's also like, also when you see something, you feel like some sort of emotion, but it's another level of like feeling and of depth.
It is.
And yeah, that's amazing.
And some people, some people are really put off when you ask them to draw a thing. So you end up having, for example, graphic facilitators drawing things for people. So you distance them once more from their actual emotion, their actual relationship to something. But everybody can show you. I don't even use the word theater very much in my, I don't say act. I just say, show me this. Let's set up the situation. Let's run through it a few times. Use words like service walkthrough or simulation and things like that, or just show me. And it's so effective. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. That's very useful, especially for young service designers who are experimenting on how they can better understand service design. And from my side, what really sticks in my mind is it is not transactional and human emotions are important. And instead of like telling, all of us are capable of showing. We have one question from our viewers, from Clever Norberega. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. What do you see in common between service design and servitization?
Okay, so I think we're talking on sort of two different directions with these words. So as I understand servitization, I've been involved in some servitization projects. What we're doing there is we have kind of a thing, usually a product, like, I don't know, a medical scanner or something like that. And we're trying to build services around that or offer that as a service. So it starts with product thinking, in my experience. You may have other experience, and it moves that towards service, a bit like Pine and Gilmore's progression of things from commodities to products to services to experiences to transformations, which I still think is very interesting. So servitization is, if you like, a direction to go. We have this and we want to add that or expand around that and make it into something which is perhaps more scalable, like a service. Service design is, for me, less a direction than an approach. It's a way of doing. So it's a mindset, a tool set, a management method, all these different things, various processes that we use to move work forward, in a way which is successful and profitable, or whatever other metrics you use, because it actually builds things that people need in a way that works. So those things are very compatible. We have a direction set by servitization, if you like, and we have a tool set or a mindset or a way of doing around using service design. And I've used that in that kind of context. I can't talk about the project, but we've had people who had large price products, let's say, in a certain industry, and they wanted to not just be a box deliverer. They wanted to have an ongoing relationship with their customers, to add value and to make more money, obviously, by putting services around that or making that product into much more of a service offering. And we use service design tools in that project, and it worked just great.
Perfect. I hope we answer your question, Clever. We have another question from our audience, Silvia.
Yeah. From Gania Azad, I hope I didn't went too bad with the pronunciation. Apologies for that if it is. And is service design and communication design linked? And if yes, how so? If not, why not?
Very much linked, because service is an exchange of value between, we say, actors, meaning the people involved in a thing. So there is somebody probably who is providing a service, who is helping, and somebody who is receiving a service or consuming a service or being helped, a helper and a person being helped. And there's some kind of exchange of value around that, with money or attention or time or clicks or whatever it is. And communication design is making communication work better. And in that exchange of value, there's always going to be communication. It may be communication of abstract things, of very practical things, or even the actual communication of the value being transferred. I might be paying you for your advice, for example. I'm paying you for something which is written down, and I consume that or watch a video or something like this. So communication design and service design, for me, are absolutely intertwined. Service design will often ask questions which communication designers don't often get asked, like, what's the business model? Can we make money out of this? What's the back end behind this? But at the coal face, if you like, at the place of value creation of service design, and in the projects around it, people trying to collaborate to do this, communication is absolutely central, and communication design is incredibly useful. If you are a communication designer and you're moving towards service design, that's very, very interesting as well, because you've got the right basic set of skills to go forward. You have a curious mind, if you like. You don't assume you know the answer. You're used to working by prototyping, by producing, for example, multiple sketches or multiple versions of a thing and testing them. Those are all the mindsets that service designers use, all the skills that they use. So that's a really, really great path to take. And many of the people who kicked off service design in its sort of scaling phase, let's say back in the 90s and 2000s, they came from communication design, product design, and then later from things like UX, because that was growing up at the time. So in great.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that. I think service design, how can I say it? It is somehow connected to different industries, because as what you mentioned, communication design and service design may somehow have that bridge, and the other professionals like from CX, UX, can also join us and get to know about service design, especially the Service Design Global Conference. Speaking of another question, so what do you think is the future of service design?
That's a really big question. And in fact, the SDN, the Service Design Network, prepared a report on that. 19 for Corona, changes around Corona. Are you still there? I had a strange squiggle on my screen. Do you hear me? You hear?
We
A bit
cannot
scattered.
hear you. Yeah, I think your internet connection is somehow lagging.
Okay. Can you hear me now? It looks better now.
Yeah, it looks better now. Let's see.
Okay, so let's try that again. I was saying that a few years ago, just before Corona, the SDN, the Service Design Network, produced a really nice little booklet on the future of service design. They asked lots of people, and I was privileged to be invited to ask a chapter. So there's a whole bunch of different answers in there. I think it's still valid. But I think my contribution to that book was around the way organizations are evolving. And a book I recommend to people to read here alongside the SDN report is a book, Reinventing Organizations, by a gentleman called Lalou, where he draws together lots of people's thinking around the way that organizations are evolving, going through very rigid hierarchical systems, through a kind of engineering model that we have today with performance and efficiency and input and output and all these words that come from engineering, towards more, if we like, human shapes. Which I know I sound very hippie here, but I'm a business person, okay? I'm a scientist and a business person. So all the stuff which I say, which sounds a bit hippy dippy, it really is based on reality. Yeah, more human organizations. When people trust our employees more, trust our clients more, co-create with them rather than trying to impose things on them, they do better. They seem to do better, and they do especially better in a changing world. And we have a changing world around us. So flexible, human-facing, planet-facing organizations do very, very well. And service design is part of that. Service design works best when teams, for example, are empowered to go out and talk to customers. That doesn't work in a pyramidal, hierarchical organization. It doesn't work especially well where everything has to be measured and optimized, because sometimes you need time for things to incubate and for things to happen, serendipity to happen. Again, it sounds hippie, but it's actually measurable. So we have this progression, if you like, from more rigid and less human to more flexible and more human types of organization which are doing well, which match to a world where things are changing faster and individuals are more empowered and more informed than before through things like the internet. And service design is a very, very good parallel movement to that. Service design works better in organizations that are flexible and human, and service design can help make organizations more flexible and more human.
Wow, that was like really
That's
an
a bit deep,
amazing answer.
isn't it? Yeah, a bit deep. It's not all about post-its, you know. Post-its are a tool that we use, but they're not really what we're here for.
I agree. Do we still have time for more question, or Judy, what you think? Or should we go with the next step?
Yes, please ask all your questions
Okay.
right now, because in the end we will give 2 free virtual tickets to 2 most active viewers for this IG live session. So please, if you have some questions with regards to Adam's workshop, or just about service design, please let us know in the comment section below.
Thanks. I'm going to add to that. I'm going to, do we have one? This is the wrong language, but I'm going to throw in a couple of copies of our book. So this is Service Design Doing. Sorry, no English copyright here. These are all the different languages. So I'll add in a couple of copies of the book for those same 2 people as well.
Ah, that's
Wow.
so nice. We're also surprised. So thank you so much, Adam, for that. Thank you for your generosity.
I have one myself on the shelf, so.
I think Service Design Network is a non-profit organization, and believe me or not, we heavily rely on our volunteers, and this act of kindness really makes our community, our global community, alive. So thank you so much.
Very welcome.
So, Silvia, I think we have one question.
Yeah, we have 2 actually. So one is from Ruki, that is one of our also SDN ambassador, and she's saying, I am a former architect and recently completed master in digital service design from the UK, and I'm looking forward to enter the design industry. How can an architect can add value to service design?
I think hugely, and some of the service designers that I admire most have an architectural background. Ezio Pierandrei, for example, in Milan, comes from architecture into service design, and others in the States and other places. So architects have, again, that really, really useful mindset, which is that they envisage an experience of using a space, moving through a space. They have a timeline with that as well. It's not a static thing. Yeah, it's a thing which you live in, which you move through, which evolves over time. And then they understand that is really heavy stone you've got to move around. Yeah, that is large pieces of material. You need to get access for equipment to that part of the city, and so on and so on. So they have a fantastic combination of understanding that, yes, there is a human experience at the end, and there's a collaborative process to get there. And there are very fundamental engineering and practicality questions behind that. And that is service design. And I think your combination that you talked about with digital design is super interesting. Because if you like, we've got both the words there. We've got worlds there. We've got the very, very practical stone and cement world and glass and steel of architecture. And we've got bits and non-finite spaces and so on, which we have in digital world, yeah, where, if you like, 2 worlds merge beautifully there. So I think you've got a very, very strong combination there. You're not going to be scared by either of those things. And that's very important, because in service design, we try to help people by making things real. And we need to be neutral about what the avenues are to make things real. We can't be fixed on it's going to be an app. It's going to be an app. It's not always going to be an app. Nor can we always be fixed on it needs to be human. It needs to be human. It doesn't. It's going to be a combination. Increasingly, things are a combination of physical and digital and human assets. And understanding the mix of those, boom, perfect.
Great.
Yeah, couldn't agree agree more on that last point. When
Thank
they
you.
ask me what's like a service design after like a brief chat, I always say, you know, like the output, like the physical maybe output, besides the outcome can be like a platform or an app, as well as, if we're speaking about an hospital setting, as well as the reconfiguration of the waiting room.
Yeah.
That, which is very, I don't know, interior design or architecture. So yeah.
Great. I hope we answer your question. So let's go to the next one. Thinking about the future, what is the future for UX design related to service design? What do you think about it, Adam?
I think that's a very good question. I don't feel very confident to answer that one, to be honest, but I will give it I'll give it some thoughts, maybe. Yeah. So if you go back to the early days of user experience, it looks an awful lot like service design today. So user experience back in the, if you look at some of the early books or even early videos around it you'll find on the internet, they're talking about how you buy a thing, how you package it, how you bring it home. Yeah. Now those are things normally that we talk about in service design today, because UX has become very, very interface focused. It's nearly always a screen, or maybe it's a machine with some buttons, but generally it's a digital screen. And that's interesting in two ways. There is a value in having very specialized things. People who are very, very good at one thing, information architecture or something like that, or certain research methods or prototyping methods, or whatever it is. Yeah? And there's a value in joining those things together, in understanding that the use of the app takes place in a physical context, and it takes place in a life context, and it takes place also in a commercial context of exchanging value. So what's interesting, I think, is seeing that UX and service design have at least evolved from the same place, and that one, if you like, is a specialization and one is a connecting thing. And I think people who are going to be successful in either of those fields, and the other ones which service design connects, will have a basic understanding of the other thing. So if you're a specialist, you have to understand the connections to a degree. If you're a connector, you have to understand the specializations to a degree. So although UX is a much bigger field than service design, I see it as a subset of service design, or let's say something which is served by being connected to other things by service design. And I think that's going to continue. The question was about the future. I think we're going to be more aware of what each others are doing. And I hope that the boundaries that have come up between those worlds, yeah, is it UX or is it service design, I hope that they fade, because we understand that these are continua, they are focuses, or they are connections on the same spectrum, if you like. On our book, this is again the wrong copy, it's a Portuguese copy, but on the front of the books it says, printed on there, this is service design doing, with a star saying service design or user experience or customer experience or human-centered design or marketing 4.0 or holistic UX or whatever you call this thing we're all doing. And that is for me really, really central, because I see that these different disciplines, and there are differences between them, they have much more in common than what separates them. So I think they're going to evolve together. I said I couldn't answer the question, and I talked for 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you for that very elaborate answer. And this year we are also trying to somehow connect with other local communities, and one of them is Calgary UX. And I think just right after the conference, we can also answer this question in a more detailed manner. So, Ganya, I think she's all prepped up and she has a lot of questions. So, Sylvia?
Yeah, lots of questions, as you said. After
Yeah.
I'll give maybe some space also to other, but how important is creativity to become a successful service designer?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. And this is really central to my practice, because I've been working in this and related fields for about 30 years now, and I don't know what creativity is. I really don't. If we look in a dictionary, it says the capacity to create. Okay, but if you talk to people about it, they don't use it in that way. They use it to mean having a powerful imagination, or doing things which are novel or new in some way, or doing lots of different things. Yeah. So I think we have to answer that question in many, many different ways. I concentrate on the verb. I concentrate on create. And I find that if you want people to be creative, you get them to create lots of stuff. You get them to build things. There's that famous experiment by a porcelain design school, where they assessed the students all through the semester in two different ways. Some students were told to present one piece, and they were assessed on the quality of that one piece. And the other group were just told to weigh all the things they made and submit the weight. How much clay had they used? Yeah, so it's, if you like, quality against quantity. Then at the end of this course, they measured them on quality again, if I remember it correctly. Yeah, so they looked at their best pieces once more. And the people who've been making lots, who've been measured by quantity, by the weight of clay they'd used over the year, they were producing better stuff at the end than the people who've been going for quality all the time. So I think that creativity comes from creation. And I really, really encourage people to do things, to build things, to mess up a lot. Again, theatrical methods are great for this, because we're constantly failing in theatre. We iterate things 100 times. That's very normal. Yeah. No, try something different. It costs nothing to try again, try again, try again. So I think creativity is important, especially in the sense of doing a lot. Doing, not talking, is the slogan of the Global Service Jam and the other global jams. And I think it's a very useful principle for designers generally, is to use words and abstractions less and to do stuff more, because that makes us more creative, as I understand the world.
Yeah, thank you for your honest take.
Thank you. It
Regarding
confuses me, that word.
creativity.
I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, and I think in different cultures, since we're a global community,
Yeah.
creativity also has different interpretation.
Yeah.
Or
I saw a
definition.
question about, very quick one. I saw a question about a book from Aishwarya, sorry, about a book recommendation, one for designing how folks behave, and I just want to recommend Designing for Behavior Change. It's called Designing for Behavior Change, and I forget the name of the authors. Just checking. Stephen Wendell, or Wendell, Stephen Wendell or Wendell. That's on O'Reilly, my publisher, but that's not why I'm recommending it. I'm recommending it because I like it. Designing for Behavior Change.
Nice. Thank you for your recommendation and your insight once again. Okay. What is the best way to know the success of service design when I'm prototyping by Mick?
Can you repeat the last part?
Yeah. So what is the best way to know the success of a service design when I'm prototyping? I guess yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So there are kind of two things we're measuring when we're designing. Yeah. Now, every design project, whether you call it service design or something else, is supposed to have an impact. If it's not got an impact, why are you doing it? Yeah. And often that impact is measured in business terms, like a profit or a cost reduction or a number of people reached or something like this. So we need to measure the success of a service design project by the impact that it has. And that's usually pretty clear at various points along the project. It may change from the initial brief because we discover things, so we change our target as we go. That's normal in service design. But it should have an impact goal which we can check into as we go along, and especially at the end. We measure a before and an after. Ka-ching, it's easy. Yeah. But I think when you mention prototyping, there are also some other ways of measuring which are more process focused. So we might be measuring how we're working. Now, one of the big mistakes that I often see, And unfortunately, it's a mistake which doesn't always show up as being a mistake, but sometimes it really, really does, is when people, for example, have one idea or they have one prototype. Yeah. And sorry, that's not service design. That's just linear thinking with post-its. Yeah. We need to be working in parallels. We have a portfolio of ideas and a portfolio of prototypes simply because that reduces risk. No investor has one type of shares. You have multiple shares, high risk, low risk, long-term, short-term, to spread your risk. And we need to do the same in design as well. So often there are metrics, quite simple metrics around things like how many prototypes do we have? Do we currently have 5 running, and are they really different, or are they all versions of the same thing? That's a problem. Yeah, we only have 1 running. That's a real problem. So we're measuring, if you like, our behavior as we go. Some people use agile metrics around that in terms of velocity and so on, or number of iterations and so on. But basically, it's self-reflective success as well. Are we doing this the right way? And is it too much? Is it wasteful? Is it too little? Is it risky? Basically, though, I think it's going to be the business metrics, or let's say the organizational metrics, and not all of us are in business. Many of us work in government and things like that. Yeah. But there's a goal, an impact goal, and that's what we check in with all the time. Specifically on prototyping, really quickly, a prototype will not usually encapture a whole service. It's some aspect of a service, like a particular interaction or an interface or something like that, or a value proposition. And so you need to have different metrics based around what it is to figure out if it's working or not. Do people get this faster than the previous version, for example? Yeah. How many errors are there, etc., etc. What would people pay for it? If you can find a way to find that out without asking them, because they won't tell you accurately. But whatever it is, so you're constantly using different things to see, are we doing right? And sometimes there's some gut feeling involved as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for for this answer. Sometimes I feel like the part of measuring, once you deliver the project, like that's maybe more in certain like type of like of environment, maybe than, like, for example, in-house, maybe the development, like the measuring after, like, happen more often than maybe in studio or agency, but like I think it's really, really important, and even more in service design.
Yeah, I mean, usually you're working with a partner in the organization and they've had to argue for a budget. You know, they've had to get some money from somewhere. So they're going to be measured on the success of this, and they're going to have some kind of mechanism to do that. So that's a really important conversation for the designer to have. So as we work together with that partner, we are aware of that as being part of our goal. It shouldn't be our only goal. We shouldn't only work to metrics, because that's just too easy to hack and it can go very badly wrong. But that should certainly be on our radar if we want to be taken seriously as business people. Correct. That's very important for service designers. We need to be taken more seriously as part of business and other types of organizational operational.
Great. Thank you so much for that answer. Since we have limited time, we will just answer 2 questions. So first is the other one, which is related. How do you prototype for intangible concepts?
That's a great question. Again, it's lots of different answers around it. A service is nearly always going to be a combination of tangible and intangible things. You know, there are going to be things like screens and interfaces and tickets and, I don't know, architecture and stuff like that, which is very tangible. And there's going to be human interactions, which are less tangible. I guess you can record them and you can play them by acting out and things like this. And there is totally intangible stuff like trust, yeah, or satisfaction or things like that. You can prototype most of that. You can prototype the tangible stuff. That's usually pretty obvious. The conversational, interactional stuff, that's what I use theatrical methods for. It's really, really fast. In fact, I'll often prototype tangible things using intangible stuff. For example, one of the most successful techniques that we use in theatrical method prototyping is you act out the interface. So before we do wireframing, I'll be the computer, you be the user. And we have a normal human conversation. I don't pretend to be a phone and say, yes, no. Yeah, I have a conversation. I see you hesitating. What's the problem? Yeah, just like a human being would. And then we figure out, okay, how do we make that maybe go behind glass as an interface? Or does some part of it need to be human, etc., etc.? So we can do a lot of that using theatrical things. When it gets to the very, very intangible, trust is a good example. You have to ask yourself, there's an abstract concept here like trust, but it has a physical or a tangible manifestation like clicks, yeah, or like I'm prepared to put down money. If you like, Kickstarter is a platform for prototyping trust. People actually put money in because they believe in or they hope that this particular project will happen. And they put real money in as well, not like I believe in you, but here's my credit card number. That's a very different type of trust they're showing. So with those very intangible things, think about what is the manifestation, big word, yeah, what is the X of that in reality, and measure that instead. And prototype that.
That was a very interesting question and very interesting answer. Like I never thought about prototyping something like physical, like an interface, but between two humans.
Oh, it's
so like super interesting
as well. Let me tell you a really quick story. I know we're running out of time. I was working with a bunch of IT people, really top level IT people, super good, and they were doing their wireframing, and they were goddesses of wireframing. It was amazing, you know. Didn't even forget the back buttons. Everything was perfect, and they were like finished. Yeah, it was in a culture concept, not a real project, but like a training cultural intervention. And they were like, we're done, let's go. I was saying, can you give me 10 more minutes because you're finished so early? Okay, just act it out. Rather than get the best practice screens out of your head and just act it out. You be the user, you be the computer, and see what happens. And this blew them away. It blew them away because best practices are great and they're the opposite of innovation. Best practice is the opposite of innovation. Yeah, so it's copying really, really precisely something, and that really, really works, although it's good enough much of the time. So they try this other method of acting this thing out, and they found, boom, we're discovering whole new avenues of value that we didn't think about because we were locked in our usual routine of wireframe. So it's really interesting to change methods. If you're doing lots of wireframing, maybe do more theatrical methods. If you're doing more theatrical methods, maybe do more wireframing. But mix these things up. That's so important because it really helps our brain break out of patterns. More about that in my workshop.
Yeah.
Come to the workshop. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm so excited to attend your workshop because, like, okay, how can we really do it? And yeah, how can we be really present at the moment, trust your co-actors, and always just try to explore the possibilities, you know, and unleash your creativity, as what we talked about in this session. So let's answer our last question. What is your experience in physical and digital world, and how can you connect that to designing services?
In our book, which I co-wrote with 4 colleagues and 301 other people who really supported us and provided material or case studies and so on, we made the decision quite early on to treat everything as a service. Yeah. So if you are interested in the thinking behind this, check into Service Dominant Logic by Vargo and Lush, Service Dominant Logic. And it says that your shoes are a service. Yeah. The screw you put in the wall is a service. I don't want to go into too much detail around that, but it's very, very interesting. So we decided to separate the world into 3 subsets of services. So we call them services, or I call them services. Yeah. Physical product services and digital services. Now, it would take a long time to discuss why we did that. But the point I want to make here is these things are so similar. They all provide value, and they're often totally interlocked. It's hard to imagine many services or products today, or digital or physical things, which don't have some aspects of the other thing in them. Yeah. If I go to the theater, then I book it on my phone, and I might print out a physical ticket and go to the theater with it. So 1, 2, 3. The theater, I encounter human beings, and I sit in a physical room. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's always there. Even if it's an app, I'm using it on a physical phone. The phone is physical. I'm in a physical context. Yeah, I'm not a brain floating in space. I have interface issues with the screen gets too cold and things like this. So all these things are interlocked. So my experience of these things comes from all different backgrounds I've had. I come from psychology. I come from the automotive industry. I come from theater. I've done projects in all kinds of different industries, in government, in NGOs, and so on as well. But what that always shows me is that the differences between these things are not so important. What's important is a human being is receiving value, and another human being or an organization is providing value. And everything else is just channels for that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for like these answers, and I don't know if we have like, we don't want to steal too much of your time, and what you think, Judy?
Yes, thank you so much, Adam, for your valuable answers. We really learn a lot in just
Me
a
too.
few,
Thank you.
minutes.
Great.
Maybe,
Was a little master session.
yes, so maybe for one last time, kind of invite our viewers for your workshop and the Service Design Global Conference.
Yes, I'm happy to. So, folks, next week in Berlin and online in a fantastic virtual version, which is not, if you like, just a watered down version of the physical conference. It's its own thing. Yeah, the online and the offline both work, and they overlap at the right times. We're meeting up. It's the biggest conference in service design, or whatever you call this thing that we do. Some might call it design thinking or holistic UX or whatever. And we're getting together in Berlin and online, and it's going to be really, really awesome. It's a 2-day conference with fantastic speakers from all around the world, with meetup sessions. You can connect to other practitioners who have your interests, or people who can challenge you. And before the 2-day conference is a day of workshops with great online and offline workshops. And there is both an online and an offline workshop which overlap around theater. My offline workshop in Berlin is around theatrical tools, how they've changed, how you can use them in any organization with any group of people to get really robust and also effective insights, ideas, prototypes, and implementation. And also online, there's a great workshop around improvisation, which is a subset of that, which I'll also be looking at. But if you are further away from Berlin, or you can't get there and want to get some theatrical, then check out the improvisation workshop, which is run by 2 fantastic colleagues online.
Great.
Perfect.
Silvia.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we say also about like to use the code that we are pasting on like the chat to unlock 50% discount on your SDN Global Conference virtual ticket, and
Wow.
will be valid only until the 3rd of September, so act fast. And I guess we will like re-examinate like the most engaging like people in the comments. I wrote down some and write to you about who is the winner.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And folks, don't forget, you can also look me up online. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook and places like that. If you look for Adam Lawrence and service design, you'll find me.
Great. Thank you so much, Silvia, Ruchi, Bhavneet. for helping us in this IG Live, and most especially Adam Lawrence for your time,
Thank you.
for answering all the questions from our viewers. You've mentioned that service design empowers teams, and I hope everyone, like all our viewers, will be empowered on the Service Design Global Conference happening on October 5th and 6th. And please join our workshops on October 4th. We have a lot of promos, so even students, we hope that you can afford the tickets, and please let us know if you have any challenges. We're very happy to answer your DMs. So thank you so much, and I hope all of you have a great afternoon. So see you once again here on Instagram tomorrow at 12 for our next guest.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Silvia.
Guys. It's been super nice. We'll see each other soon.
Bye.
Nice to meet you all. See you down the road.